Popcorn world. Popcorn world. Yeah.
Can I make you groove now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. I can make it round the world when it holds in your hand. Popcorn world. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn world. Popcorn world. Popcorn world. Popcorn world. The popcorn world.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Burn Creek Hall of Famer, Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course, Mama Noise's man, Lloyd Smith. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
I can't hear.
I can't hear you.
Can't hear you. I can hear the other two, so I think you're muted, Lloyd.
Lord, are you on mute? You're doing sign language.
We're off to a roaring start.
Right. This is that's a Sigma move right there.
It didn't take long at all.
Shots fired.
Oh, Lloyd.
Oh, Lord.
Sigma?
Still can't hear you. I can hear Charlie.
Yes. But
I can hear Walt.
I'm not sure what Lord wanted to start. But, I'll just start here. What is going on with the ACC and men's basketball? Like,
getting smacked by the SEC.
I'm embarrassed.
Man, because it's not even that like the SEC's won all but what 2 games. They've blown them out in every game. It's not even like it's buzzer beaters. They get blown out every game.
Yeah, that is very, very frustrating to see the ACC men. The women are holding their own in a sense where the games are at least competitive in some form. I know Florida State women had a tough loss last night to Tennessee by 2, which, on the road against a quality opponent. I don't think either one of them are ranked, but
Tennessee's Tennessee.
Yeah, it was a good.
You know who's falling all the way off is Miami.
Man, they fell like a rock in the ocean. And don't they got one of the Don't they have the Cavender twins back?
The women, the two women. I think so.
Yeah, I think they came back, and they still have been struggling. And Louisville had a 17-point lead on Oklahoma like yesterday, and let that one slip away. So yeah, their women team struggling too. The Louisville women, they're extremely young. I mean, they've almost all freshmen for the most part. They've got a few veterans, but the core of the team is young. So this is going to be an up and down season for them anyway. But that the whole ACC as a whole,
Well,
the SEC is struggling.
Let's just say this: the ACC, men's at least, it will be competitive.
This is true. It may not be the best basketball in the world, but the games will be close.
Hey,
Like an NIT tournament kind of thing.
It might be a
Somebody-
2-bit league this year.
somebody's gonna have to win out of that. Win the conference. So
Has Louisville's men got it together yet?
They were looking impressive. They looked great in the Bahamas, but now they've gotten so many injuries. They're down to 8 scholarship players.
Wow.
Case and Pryor, who is a transfer from South Florida. He's their best big. He was second in scoring. He was third in scoring, second in rebounding, and their best free throw shooter at almost 90% when he tore his ACL in their last game. So he's out for the year. And they have another kid who broke his arm a couple weeks ago. He might be back in January. And then that's his name escaped me right now. And then they had another kid who has a shoulder injury, and he's having season-ending shoulder surgery. So that's Corey Johnson. And so they're down to 8 scholarships per Abubakar Traore. That's who it was who has a broken arm. So he'll be back at some point. But
Well, I think with all this NIL money getting thrown around, they must have cut back the budget on doctors and trainers and physical therapists and all these injuries because the players getting all the money now, I guess.
but the prior injury was just a freak injury. He was Chucky. I don't know. I'm tired. Chucky Hepburn. Fell into his knee on a play. Just a freak accident that just happened. Just fell into his knee, and so that tore his ACL. And so it's been the curse of Louisville. I mean, even going back to Patino, they've always had a ton of injuries, and so it's just how Louisville's kind of rolled for the last 10, 15 years.
Now here's a moose I want to put on the table. Let's stir it up. Why not? I'm gonna be with you.
well, hold on, Walt. Before you get started, we need to introduce you to the group, to the crowd.
Oh, they don't know who I am?
Well,
I thought I was a man who needs no introduction. But
you're right. You're right. You don't. But
hey, to us, your family.
Yes.
I was like, who is he? Who's that big head dude?
But see, to our play cousins out there, they still need they need to learn.
You got to define play cousins.
Let us introduce you to Walter Bond. All those that may not know who Walter is. Walter is a world-renowned speaker. But before he was well-renowned as a speaker, he was an NBA star. You know, everyone that makes the NBA is a star. I've learned that regardless of how long you play, who you play for, you're an NBA star. And so we're grateful to be able to have Walter with us today to be able to share his wisdom and knowledge on sports. He talks about life. He talks about business. But he also talks about his journey. Played for Coach Clem Haskins at Minnesota. So he and Kendrick understand and know one another. But just welcome. We want to welcome Walter Bond and his wife Antoinette. I'm sure she's somewhere close by. Normally that's the case. Wherever he goes, she's right somewhere beside him. But we're grateful to have Walter with us today. So welcome, my brother.
Charlie.
Welcome,
Thank
Walter.
you for defining star, because when you said NBA star, I was like, who's he talking about? I had a cup of coffee in the NBA, but thank you for defining that.
Hey, you're the 1% who had that cup of coffee.
But I'm a star, man. Yeah.
Hey. Everybody makes the NBA as a star.
I like that. I do like that.
And I'll share the wild story on how Walter and I met. And so last week, my shout out was to my cousin Brent Haskins, who passed away. He was an advanced scout for the Cleveland Cavs, so I'm representing them today. And I think it may have been that same week, Charlie, that Brent passed when he texted us saying you wanted to bring Walt onto the show. And we was like, yeah, okay, yeah, great. And so lo and behold, I'm sitting there in the pew at the funeral on Saturday, and they announced the person who's giving the eulogy. It's Walt. The whole time, and he was fantastic, told great stories, immediately snitched on his teammate, Willie Burton. I mean, immediately. I think Willie might still be running the stairs at that church.
Right.
And so I went up to him after the every ceremony and everything. I was like, "Hey, you're coming on my show." So it is a truly, truly small world, but welcome to the family. I mean, you were awesome on Saturday, and I'm sure you're going to be fantastic here today.
Thank you, Kendrick. And Charlie had just emailed me the link or emailed me about the podcast maybe 2 days before the funeral. So this is one of those moments when people say it's a small world. No, bro, this is a tiny. That is awesome. But what a great time in Kentucky, celebrating life. Brent was a great young man. And I meant what I said at the funeral. He's one of the few people I've ever met where I've never had someone say one bad thing about Brent.
Right.
Literally. And I didn't just make that up. Like, you jokers, they talk about y'all all the time, especially up in the corner. But I never heard someone say a bad word about Brent Haskins. And that's hard to do in this world of social media. Right. He was a fine young man. He passed away at 51. But, it taught me it doesn't matter how long you live, but how well you live. And he was a very, very well-respected and well-liked young man.
Yeah. And funny.
Yes. Yeah, he keep a joke going.
Yeah.
Laurie too. Laurie can keep a joke going too.
Oh, Laurie's hilarious. It's funny because they say when we were kids, they were in Campbellsville or in Bowling Green or in Minnesota. And so now I was in Louisville. So we actually didn't really connect too much till we got older. And so Brent and I had a good relationship. We stayed in touch with each other. I would tease him because I don't know if you remember Russ Smith, who played for Louisville. And Russ was a scoring machine. He was on the 2013 championship team. He's a scoring machine, but he's not much taller than me. He probably weighed 150 pounds soaking wet. But he's still playing overseas in whatever league he's playing in. He averaging like 40 points a game. So I would mess with Brent. I was like, why the NBA won't give Russ a chance, but y'all give Shabazz Napier a chance? Because Russ used to torch Shabazz Napier. He's like, man, don't talk to me about Russ. So anytime I wanted to get under Brent's skin, I'd bring up Russ.
Yeah, the NBA's musical chairs, man. It's musical chairs. If you shake it back up and we had to go back to high school and start over, you're right. It could be a very different NBA. So you have to be very good. I don't want to use the word lucky, but you have to be very good and you have to be very blessed in order to be a star in the NBA, as Charlie Ward defined it.
Hey, you was the best sixth man in the country when you were in college.
Well, according to Dick Vitale, that was Dick Vitale's claim that I was the best sixth man in the country. And, the lesson behind that, it was real that I shared at the funeral. Obviously, you're trying to make it to the NBA. I was a little bitter a little bit coming off the bench, right? And I didn't understand it. I was a little confused, and my faith grew as a result of it. And it really taught me a lot of valuable lessons that, one, I was wired to come off the bench. That's just who I am. Now as an award-winning Hall of Fame motivational speaker, I'm still coming off the bench. I'm a catalyst, right? I have a keynote today, and I'm coming off the bench for this government contracting company today to give them a spark. And so I thank Coach Haskins, although I didn't understand how I was wired in my position, he did. Because I tell the funny joke, when I finally made it to the NBA, I got a chance to start like 60 games. I would be so tired. And Charlie Ward knows this. You get to the stadium to warm up, you go grab a ball off the ball rack. Seriously, about halfway through the season, I would be so exhausted. I would grab a ball off the ball rack and go and sit down. And I was just too tired to warm up. Really, our grandmama said, be careful what you ask for or what you pray for. I wanted to start in college, and I was bitter coming off the bench, and I made something out of it. But I realized in the NBA, my rookie year, I'm not wired to start. I don't have that kind of stamina. I don't have that kind of energy. It's a different athlete to be a starting two guard in the league, man. You're a different animal, and I learned that. So I thank Coach Haskins for really teaching me, trust the coach.
Yeah.
Right? And two, get in where you fit in. There's nothing wrong with coming off the bench, man. You can have a 10-year career in the NBA coming off the bench. And I wish I would have had a better attitude about it in college. I got my attitude around it, but there's a lot of lessons for employees. You can impact your company as long as you're on the payroll.
Right.
If you're on that payroll, you can have an impact. I don't care if you're the janitor. If you're on that payroll, you can have an impact.
But at the time when you were in the NBA too, it wasn't like there weren't any good two guards in the league at that point that you had to defend.
Kendrick, I got a video where I scored on Michael Jordan. Our brothers say, man, I'm going to give you some buckets. Right? I gave Michael Jordan a bucket. There were no buckets, plural. It was a bucket. And I show that highlight every time I speak, and folks are like, wow, he scored on Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's the one bucket. And I play it again and again.
I would too.
You think I'm a star.
One shining moment.
One shining moment.
That's why you should, when they bring you out for your next speech, that needs to be on the video screen. Then you come out.
Exactly. But here's what I would like to talk about. Let me hijack y'all podcast.
Yes, that's
my
our
wife
host
is a Miami native, and we have season tickets to Miami Hurricane football. And I go with my wife to support her. And she's a Miami Hurricane nut. When I look at the football season, and we're talking about SEC football versus ACC football, right now it looks like Miami's sitting outside the championship series. Do y'all believe that Miami's getting screwed, or did the committee get it right? I just want to let my wife know what the experts think.
Let Charlie know. You just lobbed that one up to Charlie. he's about to slam this one home like Shaq.
Yeah, the challenging thing that we've said on this show, and it's probably very evident outside, is the SEC and Big Ten are going to get the first right. If it's close, if it's 2 losses to 3 losses, the SEC is going to get the benefit of the doubt because of the prestige. Everyone feels like their conference, those 2 conferences are the best conferences, and so they play tougher games and all those things. And so when it comes down to the playoffs, and we saw this last year with Florida State, with being undefeated, they still got left out of the 4-game playoff when there were teams who had lost, and some, I don't know if they won their conference, and so, or they won their conference, but they had multiple losses or a loss on their record. So I just think when we're looking at it from this standpoint, this year it's the same. The mentality, the thought process around the SEC. At Big Ten are pretty much the same. They're even talking about if SMU loses, like they won't be in the playoffs, and they only have 1 loss at this point.
Right.
And so to me, that just goes to show you that there's a lack of respect for the ACC, Big 12. They're talking about if Arizona State is in, they'll get in, but they won't have a bye in a sense because of where they stand. I mean, they've only lost 2 games, I think, at this point, Arizona State. And so I just think it's a point where Miami had a chance to control their own destiny if they would have beaten Syracuse. They didn't. And that just gave them the leeway or the loophole to be able to put them where they currently are. They should be frustrated, just like FSU was frustrated last year. But they could have at least they could have at least controlled their own destiny by winning on last Saturday, but they didn't.
Here's a question though, and I want a real answer. Is it because it was an SEC school, or was it because it was Alabama? Right. Alabama got a whole little mystique right now because of Nick Saban and what he did most recently. Yeah. I think if it was any other SEC school other than Alabama, I think we might see a different scenario. So do you think it was the Alabama magic, or is it purely just the SEC?
Are you talking about for this year or last year?
For this year.
Yes, this year I would say yes.
Okay. I agree with that. I think it's just an Alabama mystique.
Yeah.
And that's why, it's just like they get the benefit of the doubt because they're Alabama. I think that's going to wear off over time because Nick Saban is not walking back through that door, so to speak. But I think it's the, Alabama and Nick Saban did something to the psyche. But I'm a Big Ten guy, man. And let me tell you something. Living in Florida, I'm sick and tired of people talking about the SEC. I am sick and tired of people talking about the SEC. And I predict in the next 5 years, the Big Ten is going to be the dominant conference in college sports, number one. Absolutely. If you take a look at all the sports, man, the Big Ten going to be number one in all the sports. I'll hang up and listen to hear what y'all got to say. But I think the Big Ten is fixing to take over, baby. Yes.
Not that you're biased at all.
Yes.
Because right here in Louisville, I get the benefit. Is like Louisville's in the ACC. We cover Kentucky, who's in the SEC, and the Big Ten, and we have Indiana, who's in the Big Ten, right up the street. And so we cover Indiana to an extent. And so I get the best of all three worlds. And watching what Indiana's doing this season has been amazing. And Kirk Cignetti comes in there and he talks his talk. He's got his chest out. He came in with his chest out in his introductory press conference talking about Google Me and all this stuff. And so Indiana's making moves. And like, they're another one though. That's what's crazy. Cause like we're talking about how the SEC and the Big Ten is getting the favoritism, but Indiana is still getting shunned because they're Indiana.
Right.
If Indiana was Ohio State, or if Michigan had the exact same schedule and had the exact same record as Indiana, they'd be like number 5 at worst. And so Indiana's even getting a lot of it because they're not a traditional power. It's like the college football playoff seems like they're building it's a TV show at the end of the day. So they're going on brand.
Guys, when did this happen? Because I remember growing up watching college football, we didn't have this bias. Every year, the best team was the best team. It might be Colorado one year, then it might be UCLA one year, it might be Nebraska one year. I don't remember this bias toward a conference or a particular team. When did this happen, man? And I'm going to blame ESPN. Here's my theory. I want y'all to get back to me, man, on what y'all think, man. This is not a conspiracy theory because it's my theory, so it's the truth. This is what I think happened, and I want y'all feedback on this. I think when the Big Ten launched the Big Ten Network, ESPN got offended, and they partnered with the SEC to launch the SEC Network. And I think since that moment, ESPN had a vendetta and started promoting the SEC as the dominant conference in football and has slowly kind of brainwashed the society into buying into the SEC is best in football. And slowly but surely, high school kids bought into it. Fans bought into it. It wasn't like that when I grew up, man, that the SEC. It was like, okay, they got a good team this year. Cool. Yeah. I think the Big Ten Network, when it got launched, started the politics infiltrating college sports. I will hang up and listen. That's my theory. You can call it a conspiracy theory, but give me some feedback on that. Because think about it. If I'm ESPN, when the Big Ten launched their own network, it's like, they took some of our juice away from owning college sports completely. And I think ESPN is the guilty party in brainwashing us to convince us that the SEC is a dominant conference. Man, we played Auburn a couple of years ago. Minnesota smoked them boys, man. Threw them boys out, man. They were crying in the parking lot, man. They ain't want that girl man football. They ain't want that smoke. They ain't want that smoke. But what's your thoughts around the politicization? I think I just made up a word. Around college sports.
We're gonna go with it.
Yeah,
well, first of all, I'm glad to be in the conversation finally.
You do sound like you're on a cell phone.
I don't understand. This is crazy. But there's some truth to what you're saying. Well, for sure. As I tell these guys all the time, it's a TV show above all. And for some reason, when they started looking at the following, I think of the SEC, and saying, man, these fans are fanatical, and we can get our numbers up on everything, radio, TV, all kinds of stuff. That became, I think it became they saw the dollar signs and they were like, okay, we can make real money with the SEC. Because like, what other reason would you have for listening to a guy like Paul Feinbaum? With no disrespect, you appreciate what he's done from a success perspective, but really, what makes Paul Feinbaum an expert? Other than somebody say he's an expert, right? And he covers the SEC, and he champions the SEC. He's loud for the SEC. So they got the right voices speaking to people who are fanatical. They got the right mix of the teams that are really good are legendary good. Like in basketball, it's Kentucky. Like in football, it's Alabama, Auburn. And they've ridden that wave to make it like, okay, this has got to be the best. Look how many championships Auburn had. Look how many championships Alabama had. Look how many championships Kentucky had. They got to be the best. Now, we all know that's not true. Those of us who've been covering sports forever and following it and playing it and ever, we know that's not true. But it's hard to convince the masses that it's not true. And the numbers back it up. That's the real problem.
Because like I'm old enough to remember, because like we're all generally around the same age range, about 5 years difference between all of us.
Yeah, yeah.
And Alabama, when I was a kid, wasn't any good.
No.
Before Saban got there, I mean, my boy Sean Alexander, he had his time, Kentucky boy. He had his time at Alabama, but outside of that, and what do I think about Alabama like that? Back in the 90s, when Charlie was playing, when Charlie was tearing up everybody in college football, what am I worried about? Really, the SEC in general, I mean, they were there. I mean, everybody was about the same. It was basically on who's the best team. It wasn't about who's the best conference. And so, yeah, I think both of you guys have legitimate arguments that, yeah, ESPN is a big driver of this. I do think the Big Ten Network had a lot to do with it because the Big Ten Network essentially is run by Fox. And so this is a competition between Fox and ESPN. And you know, ESPN just has the bigger brand right now. So the bigger brand pushed the bigger brand and the other big brand in the SEC, and they've ridden that wave, and that's kind of where we are right now.
And here's a secondary thought too. I'm a thinker. I like to think, right? If you really look at the economics of the SEC is located in some of the poorest states in America.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think when the Big Ten Network launched, I think ESPN knew that this day was going to come, and they went as hard as they could promoting the SEC because they partnered with them on the network to be competitive, but they knew this day was coming. So the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, who's now the president of the Chicago Bears, took over the Big Ten Network, and he goes and does a deal with USC and UCLA. Now you have markets in every major market covering the Big Ten. There's no way the SEC is going to be able to compete with the dollars because now California, LA, because of Rutgers, you got New York market. Now Chicago, because of Northwestern, you got Minneapolis. I mean, you got almost the whole country at your disposal. And let me tell you something, man.
Seattle.
If Florida State leaves the ACC and joins the Big Ten, my God, the Big Ten now has the whole country as a footprint, and the SEC can't compete with that when they're located in a region of the country that has the poorest states in America. Mississippi, I think, is considered the poorest state in America economically. So back when the Big Ten Network started, the powers that be saw this day coming. And that's why I'm predicting the Big Ten, especially with NIL, the Big Ten is going to take over because of the economics. It is what it is. So I think the whole political landscape shifted in college sports. They knew this day was coming the moment the Big Ten launched the Big Ten Network. And the SEC has been fighting with ESPN ever since that day because this day's coming. Last year, Michigan was the national championship in football. This year, the 4 of the top 5 teams are from the Big Ten. So you almost see the shifting. And if NIL keeps going forward, the gap is going to get even bigger. And the ACC is going to be in trouble. So Charlie Ward, holler at your people, man. Tell them to come to the Big Ten.
I see what just happened here.
If we get Florida State and Notre Dame, if the Big Ten gets Florida State and Notre Dame, game over in college sports. I don't like it, to be honest, because I like the competitive nature we grew up with, that one team out of the country could be the best team for that year. I hate the politics of it, but you know what? If I'm going to be playing ball, I want to be a part of the champ, and I'm a Big Ten guy, so it is what it is. And I'll be happy to shut up them SEC folks talking all that smack.
And you know who's been the biggest loser in all of this, if you think about it, has been like schools like Nebraska, because like Nebraska was dominant back in those days.
Oh yeah,
and they can't get back right for nothing.
Penn State was dominant.
Yeah, I mean Nebraska's good in volleyball, and that's about it.
I was gonna say they've had to shift sports to be relevant. But before we get to that, I gotta do this, because even though I'm on my phone, I still have these capabilities.
And that was a humble flex.
Who got that?
And that was my man Walt, because he tried to give us that Big Ten sell pitch to Charlie to Florida State. And we didn't see the setup, but once it all unfolded, we got it. So that was good. Well played. Now I understand why you're America's sixth man. I got it now. I got it. But I want to dive into NIL, because you mentioned it, and I think this is a good place to put this conversation, because I actually just saw a clip of Penny Hardaway on a podcast, and he was talking about how incredibly difficult it is for coaches right now, himself included, to keep kids motivated in this NIL landscape. And he went on as to say it's almost impossible, because you have to re-recruit every year. You have to keep kids motivated throughout the year, because they've lost their motivation, because once they're making money, they're not as motivated to just go play the game for the love of the game anymore. Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Where do you stand on the current landscape of NIL?
You asking me, Lloyd?
I'm asking you, brother.
I am torn. I am completely torn, and Charlie can relate to this. You know, I'm a Chicago kid, right? And so, you know, basketball, for example, is an urban sport. At least it used to be. Yeah. And I was thankful I could call home and ask my old man, who was a high school principal, like, yo, I need some money. And my dad would send the money. It wasn't like, can you? I was like, Dad, I need some money. He would just ask how much. And y'all would always pay it about $100, but you know, that's between me and my daddy. Right. I could do that. But one of my teammates, I'll never forget, man, I was in his car, we were riding to practice, and he stopped by Western Union. And we had gotten our scholarship checks that day. And, you know, I'm always running my mouth. And I'm like, man, what you doing at Western Union? He was like, nothing, man, nothing. And I'm like, man, what you doing in Western Union, bro? Nothing, man. You know, mind your own business. I said, man, I'm about to be late for practice. At least you can do is tell me why you stopped at Western Union. And he finally said this to me, man. He said, man, I had to send my mom some money. I was like, what? Like, yeah, man, my mom's phone got cut off, and I haven't talked to her in a month or two.
Wow.
I was like, bro, you had to send your mom some money? Now, I knew there was no fat in that check. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this dude's phone got cut off at the house. He is not talking to his mom. His mom had a drug problem, and he didn't know where his mom was. He didn't know what she was doing. He couldn't even focus. He couldn't concentrate because his mother's phone got cut off, man. And he had to send money out of his own scholarship check. So I don't even know how he made his ends meet, but he hadn't talked to his mom. That was common, you know, amongst my teammates. So I'm torn, honestly, because you walking around campus, your coach making a couple of million. They got you practicing at 5:30 in the morning, yelling at you, cussing you out. You got to go to class. You always tired. You know what I mean? And you can't even go get you a nice outfit sometimes. I could, but my teammates struggled. A lot of my teammates left college in debt because they would run up credit cards because they were trying to look fly on campus and they didn't have the economics, or you go and ask coach and it's illegal, right? So I'm torn, to be honest, because I knew I had teammates who needed the resources. On the other hand, you know, Penny Hardaway's right. A lot of guys, you know, are demotivated, but here's my overarching truth. I love it in the sense that very few people get to the next level. The NBA takes in about 45 new guys a year globally. That's it. There's 45 new players and 45 get pushed out for the most part. That's it. So think about that college basketball star who jammed the gym, had a jam pack, was a beast college ball player. For whatever reason, was not a pro. Why shouldn't they maximize their time in college? Because that can become their professional experience. I think about guys like Chris Corchiani, you know, Rodney Monroe, college legends who were just NBA ball players. But man, you talking about college basketball? Man, they were
back
in the late 80s, early 90s. So why wouldn't they monetize this stardom? Because the coaches did. So I'm torn on it, man. I'm really torn on it. Bottom line is, if you don't pay people, it's slavery, right? Mm-hmm. Athletes create revenue, so they should be compensated. I think they should be evenly and fairly compensated. I think it should be a stipend. I think every ball player gets the same thing in that 4-year period. And when you get done after college, maybe there's an incentive if you graduate. It can be built different. Right now, it's the Wild Wild West. I do like that athletes are getting some money. I don't like how it's set up currently. But I think if they reform it to a stipend and some incentive to graduate, and I think you could transfer one time.
Right.
And some of these boys playing 7 years and been at 5 different schools. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll give you one, but that's it. So I think this whole program needs to be reformed. So NCAA, if you're listening, holla at your boy. I'll be a retainer. And you know what? And we're going to get this thing worked out, because I got a lot of thoughts in my head. And I consult companies, right? My biggest company is Jersey Mike Subs. We just sold for $8 billion. So my thoughts, I know, are legitimate. I just need somebody to listen to me more.
Yeah.
I can help everybody make more money, man. I can help Jersey Mike's sell for $8 billion. You know what? A lot of times having these diverse backgrounds is necessary for these conversations, because if you're in a room and you don't have a background like me, you don't even have a perspective that's going to give you the true landscape of what we need to do for athletes. If you've never been an athlete yourself, you've never been broke yourself, you never came from the city yourself, how do you have a lens to be able to cover the whole landscape of what needs to be done to protect and care for our athletes? And so that's why diversity is important.
Can you go talk to local news companies, because they need to hear some of that, because they do some stupid stuff.
Also true.
Know how to make money.
They need you.
I'm gonna give you another example. The sexy thing in business is private equity. I'm in the private equity. Man, I've done so many deals with private equity companies. They're not nearly as smart as they think they are. They're not nearly as smart as they think that. I've seen some private equity people do some dumb stuff. But they walk around, I'm private equity. You privately dumb. You know what you're doing. Right? And it's a sexy title, but I've seen a lot of private equity companies sabotage successful businesses because they don't even understand the totality of what it takes to build a successful organization. Right. So I say it all that to say, people making these decisions are people, and a lot of times they don't have the right perspective or lens on what's important for the health of an organization long term.
A lot of times when I'm watching the NCAA and this whole thing unfold, it does feel like a little forest and trees type situation. Like I don't know how you let something get as bad as it has gotten. Because NIL, let's be honest, from a profitability perspective for the players, it's fantastic. It is a utopia of opportunity, right? But from a structural perspective, it's a nightmare, and the collapse is probably inevitable, because this is not a sustainable model where, I think the kid from Michigan, the new quarterback that's going to Michigan, I think he left LSU. I want to say his deal going to Michigan is like $8 million. I think it was.
10.
Was it 10? Okay, so that's not a sustainable model. Let's be clear. Paying an 18-year-old kid $8 million for unproven talent is not a sustainable model. But that's where we are, and unless somebody's willing to, like you said, take the reins, restructure, figure out a way different model. But my question to you guys is this: all of you, can you really get the toothpaste back in the tube now? Like, it's pretty far down the road. Like, I don't know if we can get it back.
Yeah, I think you can to an extent. Yeah. Go ahead, Charles.
I think you can. I think what they're looking for is for Congress or government to help in that process, because right now, like you said, it's out of the bottle. The toothpaste is definitely out of the bottle, and they're looking for Congress to come and help them reform their entity, because everything that they do turns into a lawsuit in some form or fashion. So that's been their biggest issue right now, is everything that they've tried to put on the table. like Walt talked about the one-time transfer. They tried that, then that got thrown into court. And then everything they try to put in place that would help reform gets thrown into court. So they find themselves in lawsuits, and then they was like, hey, y'all just do what you want to do. If it's not illegal or illegal in your state, make it happen. And so it was just it's been one of those type of evolutions since Charlie, I think it's Charlie Baker, has taken over, because he came from Congress or government to help try to figure this piece out. I think the educational component will continue to build on the campuses for the students. The other thing is they have giving these schools like 22 million. So it's like a cap. So they've given them like a cap in a sense to be able to share with the student athletes, or the students, I would call them. Now 75% of those, 75% of that money is going to football. Like that's known. The other like 20% is going to basketball, baseball, whatever it may be. Then you divvy up the other pieces
Swimming
into the other ones. And so that's already on campuses. I've heard this before. Some of the coaches aren't happy, but it's just what it is. And so I'm still not a believer in bringing in a unproven and even sometimes proven player to a team, because as we saw with Florida State this year, if they would have had the same bankroll as a payroll as Ohio State, and they had a 2-10 season,
I mean, gonna roll.
that is bad. And so just the motivation for the players to want to come out each and every day to practice, as Penny talked about, the motivation is different. It's different as young people today coming up in our society because of all the things that we have going on that distract them. But then you start adding, hey man, you already got paid. Like some people can't handle already got paid. Like some people got to work, put a contract on that deal. Some people got to continue to work for whatever it is. And so I just think that is where we are today, where, like you said, it's not sustainable, because let's just say the quarterback that left LSU to go to Michigan, and he doesn't have a good year next year. I'm not just saying he doesn't have a good year next year, and he decides, hey, I want to leave, or somebody's going to pay me $12 million, and say he has a good year. Let's just say he has a good year, and somebody say, hey, I'll pay you $12 million.
And the flip side of that too, Charlie, is like the amount of pressure on this 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, you're still developing as a man at that point. And now you've got the pressure. You have a 2-interception game. First thing being brought up, we paid $10 million for 2 interceptions, and he's 19 years old. As as a fully formed adult, you can handle it, when you're in the NFL for a while. But at that age, that's a lot to deal with on top of that.
Which is where my conflict was with like what Dion was saying, which I totally understand what Dion is saying about, let's not crucify young men in the media. But the problem is that the young men drove to the game in a Bentley. And so there are certain expectations come when I'm paying you, when I've written a check for your performance. There's a certain expectation that comes along with that, right?
One of his linemen just get a Maybach. Did I just see that on social media?
Yes, Jordan Seaton, the top lineman in the country from last year's recruiting class, just bought a Maybach. So there's a certain expectation that comes along with that.
I just want to know, man, like why?
Because he can afford it.
So Walt, please give us some wisdom on like the mindset that they may have going out and buying a Maybach that's probably $200,000
or more.
Or more.
I mean, Charlie, it's going back to the league, right? So think about our peers and all the dumb decisions a lot of our teammates made, and they were 24, to 30 years old. So now we're talking about someone who's 18, whose brain is not fully developed. They're not mature. They're watching all these videos, right? They're watching all the rappers and living in these big houses, big gold chains. It's influence, right? And so, unfortunately, what needs to happen is education. I'm very thankful. My parents were teachers, and my parents were simple. Like, you better graduate, and you better not go broke. That was my parents' advice. Like, you better graduate college, and you better not go broke. And I'm telling you, that was how I was raised, right? So my rookie year, man, I put every dime I made in the checking account. And then I got married, and I was like, wait a minute, this money should be in a checking account. What should I do with it? And then I went and got a broker at a financial firm when I went out to play with the Utah Jazz. And my parents taught me, you better not go broke, right? So I didn't spend any money my rookie year. And I never forget, my dad came to come visit and my rookie year, and I was going to pay for dinner. And I whipped out my brand new American Express card. And my daddy said, boy, what you doing? I was like, Dad, I'm paying for dinner. He said, boy, I'm still daddy. Put your little credit card up. And that was my dad.
I love that he said little credit card.
He said, put your little credit card up. Boy, like, I'm still daddy. That's what he said to me. He said, man, put your little credit card up. I'm still daddy. And I'm thankful that I had that kind of covering. I'm thankful that I had that kind of environment. But a lot of athletes don't. They're running small companies with 10 people on payroll, and these 10 people don't create revenue. That's a formula for destruction. If you got 10 people on your payroll and they don't create revenue, there's no company in the world that can survive with 10 people on payroll. Your cousins and your nieces and you paying for everything, and people don't understand money. That money been gone, right? Because of the structure of how your family operates. So we need family counseling. We need ministry. We need mental health checkups. We need a lot of things to support athletes, because we all know, like, when you're a high school star, think about it. Everybody knows. You walk in the gym, you playing football, you are a high school star. And the devastation happens when you turn 35 and your career is over. And if it doesn't work out, now you are a failure. You know, like, oh, he was big time. He blew all his money. Yeah, he married the wrong way. And then all of a sudden you're embarrassed. I know athletes right now that won't go home because they're ashamed. I know athletes personally, number one in the country, won't even go home because they're ashamed of how it all ended up for them, right? So there's some things ahead of these 18-year-old men that they have no clue what they're going to face because they're in the moment, right? And the Bible says without a vision, people perish.
Yeah.
You can't live day to day, check to check. Nobody can sustain that. You have to have a vision for your whole life. And again, that's something that my parents taught me, man. My dad sat me down. He said, man, write down your vision for your whole life. I was like, huh? I was 16 years old. He said, man, write down your vision for your whole life. And I was like, all right, Dad, I'm going to graduate college in 4 years. I had to leave with that because he was a high school principal. And I got smacked upside the head by the lead with school. I was like, Dad, I'm going to graduate college in 4 years. And then I'm going to play in the NBA. And I told my daddy, I'm going to make more money in business than I did in sports. So since my parents forced me to have a vision for my whole life, when basketball began to wane down, I still had another step. Because I told my daddy, I'm going to make more money in business than I did in sports. So I attacked life after basketball. In fact, in some regards, I was looking forward to basketball being over because I like, okay, check. I graduated in 4 years. Check. I played 8 years of pro ball. Check. Now I got to figure out how to make more money in business than I did in sports. So by me writing down my life goals for my whole life, only because of my parents, without that kind of tutelage, I'd have been living day to day just like every other ball player. But I'm thankful my parents created an environment to prepare me. My uncle played Major League Baseball. So my dad's brother was a 6'7" home run hitter who was Aaron Judge before Aaron Judge. One year he hit 21 home runs. So my sister played college ball with Cheryl Miller at USC. And I'm the baby. So when I came through, my dad had some NBA tryouts. When I came through, my family had been there, had done that. My family was seasoned. My family was educated. And I'm just thankful that I had that kind of environment around me. These athletes who don't have that kind of structure around them, they're asking for trouble, and all the vultures can come and attack.
Oh, man.
Let me retract a little bit on what I said, because I don't know seating situation he could have a deal with Maybach that is giving him this opportunity to be able to ride around in one. So let me just retract some of those things that I've said, because some of it he may not be paying for. He may be doing a deal. And that's probably the case for a lot of the upper echelon college athletes. But that's not every college athlete, as we know. And it's very similar to those in the pros as well. There is a what was that check we used to get? Licensing check. So there's a licensing check that everybody gets, you know, because you're a part of the group. But then there's that outside marketing money that you get on top of your scholarship or your contract. So I think it's all kind of playing hand in hand when it comes to. That's the reason why being number one or being a top dog in college is good, you know, because you get extra. And
but you know what?
But you know that is the case.
But you know what, Charlie, and going back to what you said and what Walt said just now, you know, my great uncle used to say all the time, make money because money don't always come. And so, you know, if at some point money starts to stop, and we all know it's going to stop at some point. It's not going to keep coming at the rate that you're making it now. You need to have a plan for when it, quote unquote, stops. And so whether you license it or purchase it or he's making money in an endorsement, whatever it is, you got to ask yourself, is that the most reasonable plan for the long-term success? And a lot of these kids, to Walt's point, they don't have a long-term vision of what is happening in this real-time moment. So I don't think you're all based in saying what you said. I just think it's whether it's an endorsement or license or whatever it is, it still needs to encompass, hey, yeah, I'm gonna drive this Maybach, but the money I would have paid for Maybach, let me put that aside. Or let me, you know, like, what does that look like as far as 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Will I still have that $200,000, or would I have blown that on a chain or a ring or something ridiculous? You know, yeah. So I totally get what you guys are saying in that regard. Well, how much? Well, do we get to let you go, man? I know.
Look, I got 5 minutes, but I want to have this conversation. This is going to be an interesting one. This is my
go
question.
ahead.
Jim Harbaugh got in trouble with the NCAA.
Right.
Now, in today's world, what in the hell is an NCAA violation?
It doesn't exist.
Oh my goodness, that is a
break.
It doesn't exist.
Rule today. I mean, I don't understand that. Like he has what they call a show clause for him to come back to college football and coach again. He has to go in front of the NCAA and basically justify and
yeah, the school have to justify.
What the hell is an NCAA violation right now? And how do you violate an NCAA rule right now? That's just mind-boggling to me that there's no NCAA violations, literally. What are y'all thoughts around that? Because I don't even know how you can break an NCAA rule right now.
I'm in the same boat. I don't know I don't know how anything's illegal.
This is gonna be a short conversation because I have no answer for that. I'm not even 100% sure I understand what they're saying he did wrong, because everything they're saying he did wrong is legal now. So what exactly is the crime? I don't get it.
So I'm in the same. I have a conundrum because like Jada Curry for the U of L women's basketball team interned for me over the summer. Well, she got me and Dusty, my coworker, she got us Christmas presents. And so I'm like, well, can I give her a Christmas present? Is that NCAA violation or is it not? Is that an NIL violation? Well, I don't know. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
When me and Charlie was in school, like everything was an NCAA violation.
Right.
And I remember in Minnesota in January, man, it could be like 10 degrees below zero. And if a coach was driving by and saw you walking to class, they could not even pick you up.
Clem got in trouble for that.
Yeah, and to me, that's inhumane, right? But according to the NCAA, I remember moments where coaches would drive by and said, "Man, hurry up, man! I can't give you a ride, right? It's an NCAA violation. So to me, the NCAA did a total 180. We went from everything being a violation to almost nothing that's
nothing being right.
And like, come on, man, let's get this thing back under control. You can always pass laws, you can always change rules, you can always change government, but we got to get this genie back in that bottle, because the NCAA is a brilliant part of our culture. It's a brilliant part of our society. There's nothing better than the NCAA basketball tournament. Are you kidding me? Folks take off work and go to Vegas for the whole week, right? That's an American pastime. Let's not ruin it, man. And Penny Hardaway said it best, like, man, I can't even get my kids to practice hard anymore.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not vision. Okay, you make $2 million in 4 years. You really think that's going to last you the rest of your life? You really believe? Now, it can if you're smart with it.
Yes.
But if you get $2 million, that money's not going to last you the rest of your life unless you have some wisdom to go with it, right? So we need some financial classes. We need some tutors. We need mentors. We need to support these athletes, because we can't guarantee their family is going to provide the type of support, you know, that they need to be successful long term. And I'm gonna close with this, Charlie. You're gonna love this, Charlie, because you know Charlie love to preach. Without vision,
really,
people perish, right? Does the NCAA have a vision?
That's why it's perishing.
Thank you. Thank you. The NCAA does not have a vision, and if we're not careful, we might be on the precipice of the NCAA collapsing at some point, because they don't have a vision, and it's just the wild, wild west. So for anybody, anyone, the word of God's not going to come back void. If God says without a vision, people perish, without a vision, organizations perish. And I'm afraid right now for the NCAA, as beautiful as it's been to our society, that it's on the verge of collapsing, just because the NCAA has no strong leadership. It has no strong vision. And basically at some point, the freaking hoodlums are going to run the asylum. And that's never going to be a good outcome for us. And so hopefully the powers that be will tune into this podcast, because this was powerful, especially the first 15 minutes. We didn't hear from Lloyd. That was the best part.
That was crazy, right? That's crazy.
We don't need to hear from them segments anyway, man. Cap was in the house, baby. God is so good. God is so good. He had to
I have invited Q's, Alpha's on this show. We've done fine. The first time I invited Cap, all hell breaks loose. So I don't.
Them pretty boys.
Pretty boys coming in, mucking up all the stuff, man.
God said, I'm going to make you mute for 15 minutes. So
he really did. He really did. I don't know what that was about.
Listen, man, look, I got to pay some bills, man. I got about 80 people who run a $170 million company waiting on me to come down there and teach them the difference between a winner, a loser, and a champion. If you really think about it, if you had a choice between being a winner, a loser, or a champion, why in the world would you choose anything less than a champion? Yeah. But if you don't know how to become a champion, you never will. And so I teach a lot of my clients the difference between winning and being a champion. And Charlie Ward, you know the difference. You know, the New York Knicks were winners, but in college, you experienced a championship. And I'm telling you that there's a subtle difference that a lot of people don't know. And Charlie Ward, I'm telling you, that could be your differentiator. When you open up your mouth and share your story, you can teach people the difference between winning and being a champion. There's something in that locker room at Florida State that was different than that locker room with the New York Knicks. I played for the Utah Jazz. We were winners. We were winners, man. Jerry Sloan was one of the winningest coaches of all time.
Yeah.
But we never won a championship. I was in camp with the Chicago Bulls for 5 days, right before training camp. And I left Chicago because Utah gave me $10,000 more. But in those 5 days in Chicago, all the Bulls talked about was championship. The veterans were going to come in a couple of days, and Phil Jackson came out and said, when Mike shows up, man, he was getting us ready when Mike shows up. I was like, man, when Mike walked in the building, it's time to go to work, and anything less than a championship is a disappointing season. So that right there alone, there's some other key elements taught me. In Utah for 2 years, we never talked championship. It never came up. We had one team meeting, and the meeting was around what color shoes are we going to wear. Back in the day, Charlie, you had to wear black shoes or white shoes. That kid's got the whole rainbow going, right? That was our only team meeting. And we wearing black shoes or white shoes. You're not going to get John Stockton into some black sneakers. Ain't going to happen. So that meeting lasted 2 minutes. And that was the only meeting we had. And we were winners, man. But we never crossed the threshold in the championship. And there's some subtle differences that are powerful between being a winner and a champion. So I wish you guys success on the show. I want you guys to build a championship level show. And man, something. Just remember this, man. The Big Ten about to take over, baby.
Oh my goodness.
Ain't nothing we can do, man. The train is left.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
The train's left the station, man. God bless y'all, man. Go Big
Still
Ten.
can't believe in the ACC.
Right about the nuke.
All right, well, we can't wait to have you back. Just when you got some time, come on back, man. You're welcome here anytime, brother.
Thanks, Walt.
All right,
all right, brother. God bless you, brother. I would expect nothing less from a nuke. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. So listen, I agree with a lot of the things he said. Not the Big Ten stuff, but there there definitely needs to be a overhaul, just a tremendous overhaul to what's going on, and it needs to happen now. Because if it doesn't happen now, I don't, or let's say in the next 3 to 4 years, man, I don't know. Now, Charlie, you may be right. The wall that's been created that is keeping them from being able to create substantive change without legislation might be too great to overcome it. Maybe the government has to step in, but my point to that is, once the government steps in, it's a whole nother thing. And so then what is the motivation for the SEC, for the Big Ten to stay in the NCAA if the government steps in and regulates the NCAA? Because now their thought process is going to be, well, then going back to Walt's point, we'll just go private. We don't need y'all. Y'all need us.
I think doesn't the government got better stuff to do?
Well, listen.
That's the motivation for the government to get involved. I've always said that. I feels there's more pressing issues in our country.
I don't personally need the government involved in my sports personally.
Well, they've made it their business to get into it, by regulating their states' colleges, because the NCAA had a set of rules, and then the states have outlawed the rules that the NCAA had, and so that's how they had to go and reform. One of the things that I learned being on the on our state athletic association board here in Florida was, you have a set of rules for your athletic association. And then the government comes in and they make laws that go against your rules. And so now you have to adjust your whole policies and those types of things because they made it law.
Yeah.
And so that is essentially what the NCAA is having to do or has done, because states, the legislature has come in and said, hey, we want this for our colleges in our state. And so now you have all these states that have put these laws in, and now the NCAA is like, hey, it's against the rules to do X, Y, Z, whatever that is. And now they're having to fight that. So that's the reason why the government has to play a part in what they're trying to do or be on the same page. That's the same thing that we're dealing with here, is we're having to meet with, senators and all these state reps and all these different people to help come together on the same issues, because we're the arm that's trying to regulate it. Mm-hmm. While you guys are putting laws in, we're the ones that's trying to regulate it. Mm-hmm. And so if we're not on the same page in some form, it makes it difficult for us to run our organization. And then you have these other groups that are trying to come in and have different thought processes, which is fine. Because you don't want to have, in this day and age, there's no corner on the market, no NCAA part 2. There's always that whole deal where, you have other organizations that have smaller groups or whatever it may be that's running their own, doing their own things, which is cool to have. But the NCAA has formed over the years what they formed. And so I just think, the government and the NCAA will have to come together to be able to regulate some of these things that we've been talking about, because they don't want to put it into law, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Well, listen, this has been a wild show.
We knew it would be.
At least on my part, it's been really wild, because I thought we had all of the kinks worked out, and turns out I didn't have any of them worked out. But nevertheless, we will make our adjustments. So we're at an interesting point in our season where, as we look at the record, we haven't. I don't know if you want to call this a tie, or I don't know what to call this.
I
don't
last.
know what you call it either. I must have had a good week last week.
You did have a good week. We actually all had a pretty good. Was it a good week? I'm trying to remember. No, but I know the week before you had a good week.
I know I missed on quite a few teams that didn't perform.
Yeah,
I was last. I don't know.
Well,
I guess there's some math that needs to be mathing right there. I think technically, Lloyd, you are in the lead because you do have 2 fewer losses.
Yes,
but right. I guess yeah.
You have to go by losses.
It's also 2 fewer games.
No, but you got to remember, it's all you still got the I Believe game. That's what's throwing everything off. I think the I Believe game, which you went 8-3 last week. And I went 9-2, so that's why it's. But I didn't win the I Believe game, so yeah, you won the I Believe game, and you went undefeated the week before.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so things are working out. Like, it's worked out.
Pardon if you hear a saw right in the background of my audio, it's because we have some work going on over here today.
Listen, it wouldn't be right not to have a saw on today's show. Actually, it's just one of those shows.
Because I've got on headphones and all of a sudden I heard it and I was like, if I can hear it, you are.
Well, I heard it. I just didn't know what it was, and I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to act like I didn't hear it. I was like, I don't know what that is, but let's move on. So we'll go through, and basically, I guess we're picking championship games this week, and this is the final week of the season. So, and I can't, and I don't have everything set up, so I'm just going to have to give it to you verbally. And pick your picks verbally. So we'll have verbal and visual proof of our picks. So there you go. So we got Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State. And that's a 6:00 game on Friday, or 7:00 game on Friday, and it's at Jacksonville State.
I'm going Jacksonville State.
Okay.
I don't know anything about either one of them. I think they both had.
I'm 100%.
Good seasons. I've kind of seen scores and what have you.
Right.
But since Jacksonville State is playing at home, I guess they're the better. They had the better team or best season. So I'm gonna choose them.
Okay.
And plus, I know someone that works there. So.
There you go.
Charlie's trying to avoid that humble flex. That's what that was.
Charlie probably knows the head coach, but
I don't know the head coach.
Okay.
He's trying to avoid that humble flex right there.
Listen, well played, Charlie. I can't flex you. I can't flex you. You know, I don't know anything about him either. I'm clueless.
Didn't Jacksonville State beat Florida State at Florida State not too long ago?
About 4 years ago.
Louisville played Jacksonville State earlier this season, and Louisville beat them 49-14. Jacksonville State and Western Kentucky just played last week, so that's why Jacksonville State has home field advantage. They won that game 19-17 at Western Kentucky. So Western Kentucky's offense has been high-powered most of the season, but they've kind of fallen off a little bit. as the season's gone on. I mean, they went from I'm trying to pull it up right here and kind of filibuster, but Western Kentucky went from averaging in the 30s in points a game. They have a game they won 63-0. Well, no, they got beat. That's my fault. But they usually average around 30 points a game. Well, their last few games, they haven't reached 20, and they got beat 38-21 by Liberty, but they haven't reached 30 points since New
Mexico State, right?
New Mexico State.
Yeah.
So they're trending down right now, and so I am going to go with Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna join you. I just don't know enough about either team to jump out there alone. So there you go.
Western won that game last week. So okay, so that was Jacksonville State's first conference loss when Western Kentucky beat them last week, 19-17. So
but that was at Western Kentucky.
Yes.
And now this was at Jackson State. Yeah.
So I think I'm sticking with my pick. I'll still go with Jacksonville State.
I agree 100%. UNLV and Boise State. And this is the game. Yeah, and it's a game where Genty has this is his final Heisman opportunity to make his case. And they're going to probably feed him the ball a lot. And he'll have the stage not to himself, because some people may want to watch the juggernaut that will be Tulane and Army on ABC. But I would imagine that most people are going to tune in to be watching Ashton Genty play in this game to see if he is a worthy Heisman player. And I don't know. I feel like because they're going to have the stage to themselves, and Boise is poised to make the college playoffs, I'm going to take Boise in this one.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm going with Boise in that game. I think Genty has a big game. UNLV's going to put up a fight, though. UNLV's a good team.
Yes, they are.
I think they'll put up a fight. I think we're going to have a really good game, but I give Boise the edge.
I give them the edge, yeah. Now, what's interesting about playing a pretty decent team is sometimes you may get exposed as well, because nobody, with all due respect to UNLV, nobody thinks UNLV is a juggernaut. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ashton Genty does in that game, and will he be able to put up the monster numbers that he's put up all season long in that game? So, because if he doesn't, then he probably just handed Travis the Heisman at that point.
But
so
should that be the case anyway? I mean, like, he's playing one less game. Travis is playing one less game than Genty. And that just, to me, goes back to like if you make the championship game, I mean, you should at least, unless you just fortunate to be able to be in that championship game, whatever that is, based around you having either in a bad conference and you just have 3 losses or 4 losses and you beat the right teams to get in. But most times you're going to be one of the top tier teams in your conference. And so you should at least have a chance. You shouldn't, being in the championship game shouldn't knock you out. Is my thing. They should at least take the top 2 teams and then seed them accordingly. If you've been able to make your conference championship from at least the Power 4.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you fine.
No, I was just gonna say, in my humble opinion, with all due respect to Ashton Genty, who's had a phenomenal season and put up incredible numbers, I don't know how you not vote for a guy who played 120 snaps a game. Like and played at a high level, like a really
high level.
Yeah, I just don't know how he doesn't win it. But
any other year, Genty wins it. But
yeah, we're going away. It's not even close. I agree. Okay, Tulane and Army. Is this the best season Army's ever had? Like,
well, they used to dominate the sport, back in the early days.
Yeah, but
stop the wishbone.
Yeah. Right.
They held the ball for like 45 minutes.
Hey, you know what, Charlie? It's back when they used to run over to the sideline.
which we know how much you love that. We know how much.
They used to run people in with the play. with their card, and they hand the card to the quarterback.
Oh my goodness!
And he called a play.
This was a tough one to call because Army's had a great season.
Phenomenal season.
A long time, but Tulane has been on the up and coming. Where is that game at?
It's at West Point.
I'm going with Army.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go that way as well.
Because they're going to hold the ball for 4 to 5 minutes.
Which will keep Tulane off the field and thus not give them the opportunity. I see the strategy.
I like Tulane's quarterback though.
I mean, let's see. I'm just looking at their points for. Army has 284 points on the season. Tulane has 330. And Tulane's only given up 13 more points on the season than Army has. I'm going to predict the upset. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with Tulane to beat Army.
Kendrick going with the upset.
Going out on a limb on this one for one.
So you're saying Tulane is going to maximize their 15 minutes and somehow pull off the upset?
I mean, Tulane's 5-1 on the road this year.
Oh. I mean, listen,
they hold the football for 45 minutes.
Well, Tulane doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. You're saying that Tulane is going to take the 15 minutes they've been allotted to have the ball and find a way to beat Army 45 minutes. That's basically what you're saying. All right.
Yeah, they're gonna score quick.
So, in what could only be described historically as the most disappointing Big 12 championship match of all time, Iowa State will take on Arizona State. Because this is not the game we all wanted to see by any stretch of the imagination. No. And if you watched Iowa State last week against, was it Iowa State? No, Iowa State and Kansas State was an okay game. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But if you watch, I felt so bad for Colorado because that Houston team is, with all due respect to their coaching staff and team, that team is awful. Like it was awful. And they still almost won the game.
Houston's a team that I don't understand how they're not consistently good in every sport.
Because there's a lot of talent in the city of Houston.
Right.
There's a lot of talent. I mean, a lot of talent.
Yes.
Well, a lot of times that talent doesn't want to stay at home because they may need to go somewhere else.
That's true. That's true. That, Houston is a tough city.
Yes. I just feel like that's a sleeping giant there.
Yeah.
They should be able to excel in every sport.
Well, I'm going with Arizona State.
Yeah.
Coach Dillingham. Of course, he was here at Florida State for a hot second. And I think he's done a great job at Arizona State. You know, they kind of been under that rock. Like, people hadn't paid attention to him. All of a sudden, they're like, hey, I'm here. They jump up under that rock and say, hey, I'm here. And they grown into this team that's very competitive.
They're not bad. They're not bad. They may surprise some teams if they win this game and they'll be low seeded in the playoff. But they're not a bad team.
I mean, that's still probably people there that think Herm's still at Arizona State.
Oh, for sure. like
even though he's on ESPN every day.
They may think Antonio Pierce works there on the side, like when he's not doing Raiders games.
You play to win the game.
Yeah, they are under the radar is an understatement there. Okay, Ohio and Miami of Ohio. I got nothing.
I'll go with Miami just because I've got friends who graduated from Miami. Maxion, though.
I go with Ohio since I go opposite of Kendrick.
You trying to make up ground, Charlie?
Yes, I'm losing. I'm losing. As Walt say, what's the difference between being a winner, a loser, and a champion?
You're evoking a champion's mentality.
Yes.
So they played earlier in the season at Ohio, and Miami of Ohio beat them on the road 30-20. This game's in Miami. It's in Detroit, actually, at Ford Field.
In Detroit.
So I'm gonna go with Miami of Ohio as well. Plus, I can't let Kendrick have that by himself. So there you go.
Well, I feel like I'm the target.
Well, listen, you and I got to be in lockstep for the most part. Georgia and Texas. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be an interesting one.
That is a tough one.
At the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia.
I'm gonna go with Texas. I don't know why. They may have revenge on their hearts, especially losing at home.
Yeah.
But I'm Quinn Ewers kind of scares me because of his ankle.
Kind of.
I don't understand why they keep playing him. It's not like they don't have a serviceable backup.
Yeah, I mean they've I don't know. Yeah, I mean Arch came in and did well when he was
scored
in
a
there.
touchdown in the last game.
So I think they're just trying to hold on for hope for him.
I guess,
and then use the change up.
I agree with starting Quinn if they're both healthy, but if he's hurt, it's been points when he's been out there and can't move, and they still won't take him out of the game. They just bring in Arch for his package that they have, but Quinn goes right back in the game. I don't understand what they're doing.
I think they're trying.
I'm surprised if they went with Arch at some point. Just hey, here you go, because you're healthy. Because unless they're protecting Quinn really well, and he can't. I mean, he moved. He ran a couple. I saw him run
nice runs.
Run a couple times to get out of traffic
early in the game.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they play it.
I think they're trying to protect Quinn's long-term future in their own weird way.
Look, we're at the end of the season now. A long-term future. What does that mean? Like he's leaving after this year, as we know.
Right. Well,
and so if you'd have said this at the beginning of the year, then I'm like, okay, cool. But
I'm not saying it's Texas future. I'm not saying it's Texas future. I'm talking about, Sark is an interesting guy because I think he has a lot of Saban in his coaching, and Saban wasn't always quick to pull a guy, a quarterback either. Remember, we remember the Tua and
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts situation. So I think there's a loyalty thing there that both those guys have for them playing for their team and also for where they're headed. Because you keep pulling a guy off the field for performance reasons, and that does hurt his future, his draft future.
It's not for performance; it's because he can't move.
I agreed, but I'm just trying to understand the psyche of these guys because they're very similar in that regard.
You're hurting his future more if he can't move and he gets blasted.
Correct.
Listen, I agree 100%, but I'm just saying I'm looking at how Nick was, and I'm looking at how Sark is. And it seems like they coach their guys the exact same way. By the way, at this point in his career, I don't think Quinn is a first round pick. He may not even be a second round pick. He may be like third or fourth. So I don't know if it matters at this point. I think if I don't know.
For the most part, wherever he's going to go, that's where he's going to go. There's not going to be much change, at this point in the season. And so, I'll give the doubt because he sees these guys in practice every day, so he knows more than we do. It's just on the surface, just outside looking in, just seeing what I see. I see a guy in Quentin Ewers who is a really good quarterback who is obviously limited because he's hurt, and Arch Manning who comes in there and plays his role. He does what he's supposed to do, and he excels at it. And so he sees him every day in practice, so he knows more than I do.
And it may be that Arch is not his total package at this stage in his career is not as dynamic as we think it is either. Like maybe, because the more you see a guy,
we're just seeing him in flashes. We're not seeing him.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So there may be things that they're hiding that Arch is not great at right now, and you're like, listen, I can't put him out there for the whole 60.
I just look at it because, I'm looking at it still looking at it through the prism of that Kentucky game. You were going to win that game,
right?
And Ewers cannot move. He literally could not move in that game, and they left him in there. I'm like,
they left him in there, yeah.
In Kentucky, it's been bad all year. Just go ahead and put Arch in there. I didn't understand it.
But let me say this also. I don't know if I trust Carson Beck anymore. He's not been great. And that guy's cost himself millions of dollars. Unfortunately, because it's just and it happens because the longer you stay in college football, the more they see you can't do. And it's easier to scheme for you. And that has been very true for Carson Beck this season. Because I think if he'd came out last year, he's the top 5 pick. Mm-hmm. But now, is he still first round?
It depends on who's drafting, but probably not.
Right.
And I don't. It's the thing. I don't trust either one of these teams because, watching Texas against Texas A&M last week, they dominated the game, especially on the run with the run game. But they just kept doing dumb thing after dumb thing after dumb thing, keeping Texas A&M in the game. So Texas A&M just couldn't take advantage. If they do those same things against Georgia, even if Carson Beck does like giving the ball up to the other team, they're going to take advantage of that and win the game.
And by the way, based on the way Haynes King played against Georgia, you might see a lot of Arch Manning this weekend because he was outstanding last weekend. So I don't know. This is a pick 'em for me. Charlie, I may ride with you on this Texas thing just because the combination of Ewers and Manning might be more than Georgia can handle. Because if Georgia gets behind against Texas, I don't know if they can come back against that team.
I think the way that Georgia beat them in Austin, I think that that's going to be beaten to the Longhorns' head all week.
Yeah.
So I agree with Charlie, too, that it's going to be a bit of a revenge factor there. So I'm lukewarm going with Texas, even though I don't trust Texas at all.
Right. Yeah. Marshall in Louisiana. I guess it'll come down – the game's in Lafayette, Louisiana. I guess it's going to come down to who ate the least amount of gumbo prior to the start of this game.
That's Louisiana because they're used to it.
Right, exactly. So I think I'm going Raising Cajuns based on that because Marshall's going to be overwhelmed. They're like, wow, beignets. Oh, boys, this is amazing.
It's the beignets that get you.
It's the beignets that take you out.
You can get gumbo and po' boys anywhere, but the beignets.
Not authentic ones, though. Not authentic. These are Louisiana-based. So I don't know. I'm going Louisiana just because it's there.
It's in Louisiana.
Yeah.
What says you, Charlie?
I'm going with Louisiana too.
Yeah. Then the final two, Penn State and Oregon, which is not the game we all thought we were going to see prior to last week.
Kansas State?
No, Penn State and Oregon. Oh. Yeah, Penn State and Oregon. That is not the.
We thought Ohio State would be playing Oregon.
I thought Ohio. Did you think Penn State was going to get in, Charlie? I didn't think they would.
Well, they put themselves in position to get in.
They did. They clearly did.
By winning their
Ohio
game.
State was going to lose to Michigan, though. That's the thing.
That was wild. That was a wild.
Ohio State. That's another topic. Like, Ohio State has been good all year, right? And then they lose to Michigan. How do they? I mean, Ohio State's been top team, and then how many losses do they have?
2.
Oh, they only have 2?
Yeah.
Is Ohio State good?
Is anybody in the Big Ten good? Let's be honest.
Well, let's just.
I didn't want to bust Walt's bubble. I'm like, there's like 3 good teams in that conference.
I wanted to bust his bubble, but I couldn't get my audio to work.
So the overriding theme here is every team that's going to be in that top 12 playoffs can be beaten.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Even Oregon to me, I mean, they've been winning games, and they found ways to win games, but they just hadn't been like what you would consider dominant. And and even to the point where they're going to be probably the top team coming into the 12-team playoff. And for me, that scares me to pick them because of all the other teams that's going to be in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see them being like a dominant team. Like if they were Georgia 2 years ago, then I could see them running the table as a number 1 team.
Yeah.
But for Oregon, I'm not sure they're like the top. I mean, they've been a top team, for quite some time these past, 8 to 9 months. 8 to 9 weeks. But I just like anybody can beat anybody. We talk about Ohio State. Their good is good enough to win, but their bad is bad enough to lose. Like, and all you need is one game, as we've seen in the playoffs. NCAA playoffs. One game take you out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it'd be very interesting to see if Ohio State, they have good talent. The thing that scares me is Will Howard. Like, I'm not really confident in him being able to pull Ohio State through a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Indiana game, they beat Indiana on special teams. Offensive, defensively, that was an evenly played game. It's just they just got a couple big plays on special teams. And so I'm with Charlie. I don't trust the quarterback.
How much would Kyle McCord have helped them this year?
Right.
They may have backed the wrong horse.
Yes. And but as far as the Big Ten championship game going Oregon, just on the simple fact that I never trust Penn State in the big game.
Well, I was going to say, it would not surprise me that Penn State won, but I don't know if I have the courage to pick them.
It would surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me. I think
it's good defense, though, right?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And they're physical.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Which is what Oregon does not want.
Penn State for the upset. Penn State. Go Nick the Lions. Go Nick the Lions.
I don't think you believe in that, Charlie. I think you just picking opposite of me.
No, I believe Penn State can win the game. James Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in James Franklin.
So here's a question based on that, and I think I'm going to go. Reluctantly, I'm going Oregon, but I do think Penn State can pull the upset. But here's the question though: if Penn State does beat Oregon, who's the number 1 team in the nation at that point?
It's still gonna be Oregon.
How?
If Oregon loses, who would be number 1?
Yeah, because Oregon and Penn State would have the exact amount of losses.
I mean, or Oregon would be. I mean, Penn State would be number 1. Yeah.
I think they would have to be, even though that's insulting to Ohio State, because they're like, what? Wait a minute. We just beat them.
Ohio State only beat Penn State by 7 points, so it wasn't like a blowout.
It wasn't a blowout. That's exactly right.
It was a good game, and Oregon beat Ohio State by a point. So I mean, you're kind of going back and forth with those close losses being like the difference, but you would have to probably put Penn State the #1 team.
Yeah, unless you move Texas up if Texas wins.
Texas wins. I want the chaos.
I would leapfrog Penn State over Texas if they beat Oregon.
I would too.
Correct.
I want the chaos. Matter of fact, I'm changing my pick. I'm changing my pick because I want the chaos. I want Penn State to win now. Just because of the chaos. I want it.
Go Lions.
Go Litany Lions. There you go. And then our final ACC game.
Thank you all for leaving me on this island.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And then the final college game is
the championship between the three of us is pretty much going to be won after this week.
Oh, absolutely, 100%, 100%. And then the final game is our ACC game: Clemson and SMU in Charlotte at the Bank of America Stadium. This will be the best football that's been played in Bank of America Stadium all season long.
Hey, the Panthers have been playing better. They just don't win.
Yeah, they have been playing better. They have been playing better. I'll give them that. But still, though,
that's not a tall hurdle to cross.
It wasn't. Hey, listen.
ACC games have normally been very good. ACC championship games have normally been very competitive games.
Yes.
And I don't see this being any different. My hesitation with Clemson is they only scored 14 points last week. Like, they started out okay offensively, and then all of a sudden they couldn't score, and they were at home.
Yeah.
Which is very disturbing. So I'm not sure. And then SMU, they've been good all year for the most part. I mean, they haven't lost any conference games, and then Kevin Jennings has been special. So I think I know it's going to be a very good game, very competitive. I want to see SMU win, but I also want to see Clemson win because I know hopefully if Clemson wins, they will keep SMU in the
They'll both get in the playoffs.
I just want to see that. I just want to see if it's going to happen.
I don't think it will.
Which is crazy to me. They would put a 3-loss team in over a 2-loss team that was in the playoffs. I mean, that was in the
2-loss teams because Miami too.
Yeah.
Correct. But at least SMU was in their conference championship.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like one of the top teams in their conference. So
supposedly
I want to see that, but I don't want to see SMU get left out because I think they've had a great year.
Yeah, they deserve to be there.
So
I'm going SMU.
They win.
I'm going SMU. I just honestly, I'm going with SMU because I think they're the better team.
You're right.
Clemson's best play is the read option with K. Klubnik, and it's more him running it than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems right. It seems to work 2 times a game. The last 3 weeks it's worked 2 times a game, and 1 week right. 1 week it worked and they won it, and then last week it didn't work and they lost. So you got to believe SMU's defense is prepared to stop those 2 times. So I think SMU is kind of far and away the better team. Like they're a really good team that people are sleeping on. And I think I want to see SMU make a run. And so they got to get into that top 3 or 4. And in order to do that, they got to win this game. I don't know. I hate.
Is there a path for them to get in the top 4?
I think their power. Don't the Power 4 automatically get the top 4?
I think so. They're
I'm
supposed
not
to.
sure.
I think the top, yeah, I think the top power 4 automatically get the top 4 positions if they win their conference game. I think.
And Notre Dame can't get higher than 5, right?
Notre Dame can't get higher than 5. So,
okay.
I just want to,
Yeah, you're right. You're right then.
Because Clemson's going to end up if Clemson gets in, they're going to be 4. But I think if SMU wins, they're going to be 3.
I think they're going to still be 4.
You think they'll still be 4?
Arizona State or Iowa State wins?
You know what? Because I keep looking at the rankings, I keep forgetting they got multiple teams from the same conference in there.
Right.
I think they can get up to a 3. I don't know. I could see the playoff people, the voters for that, basically, for lack of a better term, screwing over the ACC and putting them at 4 instead of 3. I can see it happening. I'm not saying it should happen, but I can see
even the SC, the Big 12 champion.
I can see them doing that. I can see them putting the Big 12 champion over the ACC.
I hope not.
I'm not saying it's right. I can just see it happening.
But they would have to leap. They would have to leap them 8 spots in order to do that. Like that's crazy.
Arizona State.
Yeah, because they're 15 now.
No, it doesn't make any sense. But look what we were talking about.
That's all. No, you're 100% correct. I can't argue with. Listen, I can't argue with that kind of logic. That's you're 100% correct.
What we've seen from the committee that's been consistent throughout the years that they've had it is they don't mind jumping 12 spots, a team 12 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody can go from 25 to like 12 if they beat someone that was in the top 5.
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So I wouldn't put this past them either. Like, but then again, they're in the championship game, so I don't think they expected these 2 teams to be in the championship game.
Either one of them, right?
In the Big 12. But the Big 12 is kind of like in football, it's kind of like what ACC basketball is going to look like this year, potentially. With
By the way, Charlie, just to jump in on, I was gonna say just to jump in on that point, because my audio wasn't working when you guys were talking about it. But my God, I am stunned at how inefficient ACC basketball is this season so far. And don't look now, but there's some teams already in trouble. Like Louisville went from a team with last week that looked like it had promise in the Battle of the Atlantis to a team that may not get out. I mean, they may not even finish 500 because they keep losing players left and right.
I don't think they are going to finish 500.
I mean, it's gotten kind of scary. And then Duke, I look at Duke and I'm like, wow, Cooper Flag is good, but he's not enough to pull them over the top, over the hump. Like they don't look great as a team. Yeah, they're young. Yeah, they're very young, and you can see it in the decision. They did win last night, so that was cool.
Last night, I think. That was a home win though.
Yeah.
So I think the ACC might be.
Clemson looked good.
Clemson looked great.
Clemson did look good. That was Kentucky's first true road game, but I say that in most years I think that makes a difference. But this Kentucky team is so experienced; they're such older players that shouldn't make that much of a difference. But it felt like it did. But yeah, Clemson just outplayed them. They've out-physicaled them, which I didn't think I would see that from Kentucky. But at the same time, Kentucky is someone who's around it a lot. They got a lot out of that Duke win because, like, the fan base is still talking about that Duke win. And I'm like, Duke had a couple players get hurt in the middle of that game. If they didn't get hurt, they probably would have won the game. So I think Kentucky's I don't want to call them a full-on fraud, but it's a little bit deceptive.
Well, it's just early. It's just early for everybody. And it looks like all the way across college basketball, that everybody's still trying to figure it out. Like we are nowhere near knowing who the good teams are yet. Like we're not there yet.
Yeah, because Kansas got smacked by Creighton.
Kansas got and it was that game wasn't close. Like it wasn't ever close.
At any point did you think Kansas was going to win that game?
Right.
But what you're sleeping on is who Kansas played.
Creighton, right?
Yes.
Creighton.
Yeah.
They've been smacking everybody this year.
Yeah, Creighton's solid. Creighton is solid. And then you look at UConn already with 3 losses. Like
I think UConn's bounced back. I think the one team that I think we all three can agree because we've seen this movie that we kind of know how the season's going to go is Duke, because it's been like this for a while now. They're good.
Yeah,
they've got that high profile freshman, but their ceiling is maybe Sweet 16.
Probably, yeah, that's probably true. So Charlie, are you going SMU? I forgot to ask you that, by the way.
Yes, I'm going SMU.
Okay, cool. So we're all going SMU on that. But there is a part of me that would like to see 2-3 teams get in from the ACC. It's not going to happen because Miami is completely out. I don't know how you leave a guy who's for the Heisman out. But whatever. I mean, I just don't. The NCAA. I mean, these
that would be. I mean, I don't think Cam Ward is going to win the Heisman, but he's going to be a finalist.
Right. He's going to be in New York. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out. But anyway, so
Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yeah. So Pop-Tart Bowl is funny. Okay, so for the I Believe games, we'll go all NFL this week, obviously. So how about Green Bay and Detroit as an option, which is tonight's game.
Where's that game?
That's at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan.
I'd pick Detroit in that game no matter where they play.
No,
okay.
Different.
They already busted Green Bay in Green Bay.
Yeah.
It wasn't cold at that time.
Yeah, it was. Detroit's built more for outside than they are inside if you really look at how they're built.
Yeah.
Built for outside. Like it's just painful to watch them playing like
you can just stop there. You can just stop there. It's painful to watch them play.
Yeah. That Buffalo.
If Jordan Love's not clicking, then they're very hard to watch.
Yeah. And Jordan Love is a I don't say he's a bizarre player, but
he's boomer.
He's so good that he's bad sometimes. Like he's what Brett Favre. He's like Brett Favre light. Like Brett Favre made a lot of great plays, and Jordan Love can make a lot of great plays. He's just not making them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird watch with him. So we got Green Bay and Detroit. Just for kicks and I know because I forgot Trevor's not playing, so I can't give you Jacksonville, Tennessee. That's not fair. But I can't give you Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
By the way, hold on. Even if Trevor was playing, do not make anybody watch Jacksonville and Tennessee. Let's just take that off the table.
You don't want Trevor Lawrence and Will Levis?
I don't want to watch anybody in that division outside of Houston.
Touche.
So who's the 2 college games?
Well, we don't have with college games. We don't have any extra ones, so we got to go. Yeah, we got to go. Yeah, we got to go all NFL here. So we got the first one is Green Bay and Detroit. We got Cleveland and Pittsburgh. And then I got to give you a couple of tough ones. So we'll go Seattle, Arizona, and then Chargers, Kansas City.
I'll go with Seattle. Seattle's playing who?
Arizona. At Arizona.
I'm sticking.
And then and then you going Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because you got to get the win. I got to see what's happening here.
Strategy.
I kind of want to go Cleveland, Pittsburgh, just because I am so thoroughly entertained with Jameis Winston that it's just That's the only reason I'm going to watch that game because I just want to see what Jameis is going to do.
I'm so thoroughly entertained by them that I will not pick their games because you never know with Jameis.
Well,
yeah, three bad throws. They ended up.
Jameis is gonna Jameis,
but it's fine. Charlie, it's fine because Jameis this week asked God to deliver him from pick sixes. So, and I feel like God hears Jameis's cry. So I think he's gonna be fine. I'm not picking it, but I think he's gonna get.
And I'm like, now you want deliverance for it? You've been throwing pick sixes since you've been in the league. I love Jameis. Just
listen. You can only ask
about my man like that.
That's right. You can only ask for deliverance when you realize that you need the deliverance. And he just realized.
I just brought a microphone on Jameis Winston 24 hours a day.
Oh, listen. Hard Knocks next season will pick their team based on where Jameis Winston is.
They're already doing it because they're doing Hard Knocks AFC North, so they're already doing it.
But I'm saying I need that mic to be on him much. Like I watched the first episode and it was decent, but I need more Jameis. I need far more Jameis than they're giving me right now.
You can put Jameis and Anthony Edwards on just them two on just a 24-hour stream every day, and I'm super happy about that. I'm super happy about that. I almost want to pick Kansas City because they don't lose.
They just don't lose.
No matter how bad
they just don't lose. It's like no matter how bad it gets.
I worry about them because the defense was carrying them, and now the defense is getting shaky.
I don't think they can win a title this year. I just don't. I just think it's gonna collapse at some point. I
think Buffalo might get them.
But the Chargers, I don't know if this is their year either. So
no, they're a year away. Chargers are a year or two away.
Give me Russell Wilson doing Russell Wilson things. As my I believe this week. So there you go. All right. What a wild show this has been. Shout out to Walter Bond, who was just a jewel of a man. It is fantastic. All you have to do is say, Walt, sports, go. And he's ready to go.
You just say Walt.
Go. Right, go. And he's ready to go at all times. So there you go. Oh, I could have picked Cincinnati, Dallas. I didn't even think about them.
Don't nobody need to watch that game.
The world would be.
I'll watch the Simpsons cast.
The world would be watching Cincinnati, Dallas.
Yeah, the world always watches Dallas.
Right. Gotta watch Dallas.
Especially when they could easily get torched in that game. It's very easily get torched in that game.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It feels like that could run away from them very fast.
I don't know though.
It feels like
listening to the Bengals, it feels like they're kind of falling apart.
Yeah, it can go either way. Yeah,
it is for two teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. It is an exciting matchup for two non-playoff teams.
Well, one thing we can say for certain: the loser is absolutely done.
I think the Bengals are already mathematically out. I could be wrong. I feel like they are.
I think they are too. If not, they're as close to being mathematically out as you can possibly be. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Mathematically, Dallas can still win this stupid division. It's not gonna happen, but mathematically they could.
I don't see it, but we'll see.
Oh, it's not going to.
Yeah.
If the math is mathing.
If the math is mathing, you never know. So Micah Parsons believes it, so I guess that's something. He's no Jameis Winston though. I don't see Micah Parsons' face being as strong as Jameis Winston is what I'm trying to say.
Mike isn't. He's developing. He's not. Jameis is more seasoned in being crazy. Micah has a way to go.
Micah just is early on this journey. Yes. He's early on this journey. Okay,
it's further down the road.
Absolutely. All right. So shout out to Walter Bond, and then who else we shouting out this week, guys?
I'm gonna give my shout out. It's gonna stay with Walter. I mean, It was crazy seeing him delivering the eulogy at my cousin's funeral. But I mean, he was fantastic on the stage. I mean, he was awesome. He's one of those few people who can make you laugh at a funeral, but he did that, and still paid all due respect to my cousin Brent. So he gets all my shout outs.
Awesome.
Shout out to my basketball team. We've had a good start, 4-0 at this point.
Nice.
Have a tough game coming up tomorrow. But nonetheless, just proud of the guys. And so shout out to them for putting in the work and getting the results.
And let me add to my shout outs. I want to shout out the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Detroit Pistons, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Atlanta Hawks, who all sent their condolences in the funeral.
Wow. That's awesome. That is very awesome. It's awesome. A life well lived. My shout out is to the great Aaron Rodgers, who is keeping it petty to the end. And I appreciate a good petty. I do. Aaron Rodgers said he has nothing to prove going forward. Nothing to prove. And that actually is in line with this season because he has nothing to play for.
Ain't proved anything all year.
Right. But I just appreciate the fact that he wants to say it. He thinks the Jets would be crazy not to bring him back. And I personally think the Jets would be crazy to keep playing him at all. But that's
crazy to bring him in the first place, and they could have had Lamar.
Yeah. Lamar wasn't. Let us not forget that at the time the Jets decided on Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson was a free agent.
Yes, and I believe on this show we said that they probably should go with Lamar.
Just saying. Just saying. But I appreciate a good petty as much as the next person. So shout out to Aaron Rodgers for keeping it petty. And then finally, shout out to the Los Angeles Lakers on their much needed reality check.
When did they lose by 41 points?
They lost last night to the Miami Heat.
Oh, so it was last night because I saw the feed and where he was saying that it was his fault, but and the players need to look themselves in the mirror as well.
As much as I like laughing at LeBron, it's not all on LeBron. They're trying to put it all on LeBron, but it's not all on LeBron. It's the build of the roster.
Well, listen, if you are at this stage of your franchise's history, putting all your eggs in the basket of a 40-year-old player, you deserve what you're getting.
Right.
You deserve what you're getting.
I said it last season that the Lakers need to either trade one or both, either LeBron or AD, or trade both of them, because you'll get a whole bunch of stuff back and picks and start building for the future. But the only problem with that is that you don't know what the future looks like. And with all due respect to Cooper Flag, like.
yeah, but it can get worse. It can get worse. Like the Jets are going to be bad for a long time.
Look at the Thunder.
That just worked out though. That just really worked out though. I don't know.
Gotta do. I mean, yes, they have, but they've got picks upon. They still got picks.
They still got picks. So, you are speaking as though the Lakers have that level of management, executive competency in their organization, and I'm not convinced. Right. I'm not convinced that they do.
But they're the blueprint. The Thunder are the blueprint that the Lakers need to be following. I mean, LeBron and AD are just going to get older. So you got to move on. You should have moved on last year.
Father Time is undefeated, and he is coming for LeBron James's head right now. So there you go. So I'm in a petty state. That might be because my audio was so bad today. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty good. It's gonna be a great weekend, championship weekend. Everybody enjoy the weekend, and we'll be back next week to do it all over again on BLEAV in the ACC. We'll give you a more in-depth ACC preview next week. Although by then, but may not be as much to preview. Like our preview might be is that the ACC is bad. I don't know, but
they start ACC play next week, so at least they won't be playing the SEC anymore.
There you go. Which might be the key to a good season. The ACC. Stop playing the SEC. All right. Have a good one. We'll be back next week, guys. Just BLEAV in the ACC.
You've been listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join us next time on BLEAV in the ACC.